welcome. It's good to have you. We're continuing our series, or perhaps starting it. I don't really know when this will be published. The conversations with Father George, where I just sit down with interesting people and talk about things that I hope will be interesting for anybody scrolling through our Facebook and YouTube. And so today I'm here with Scott, the business manager of Catholic Nac, and we're going to talk a little bit about our post-coronavirus plan, or perhaps not post-coronavirus, but as the world opens back up and finds this new normal, what is it that we're going to do here in Catholic Nac to try and re-engage people and continue to bring people to God and God to people. And so, Scott, you started off, you started my mind really going at a meeting that we had in the midst of the whole foray about the importance of this time. Do you remember, what was the exact quote that you said?
Yeah, I don't know, paraphrasing, I guess I should say, quoting myself, that's funny. Just the idea that people will remember this time period and they'll look back and they'll say, who was there for me? Who checked on me? Who did I lean on and they, helped hold me up? And so, during those early meetings when we were scrambling of, now we have to shut down this. Oh, now we have to shut down this. Oh, now, all these different things, and trying to get an idea around, well, what can we still do and how can we still bring as many of the sacraments to as many of the people as safely and following, being in compliance as possible, which has kind of always been your goal and as a business manager trying to assist with that. And so, I think that once again, kind of like I was talking with my children the other day, we were sitting at the lake on Sunday actually, and talking about this corona apocalypse, and they're all annoyed because ballet got canceled and baseball got canceled and all these different things that they want to do. And my wife and I were sitting there, and I said, well, you guys will remember this your whole life. Even though you're young, you'll remember this till you're, in your 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
It'll be like 9/11, everybody, I'm sure you can remember exactly where you were, exactly what you were doing when you turned on the TV or flipped on the radio or somebody called you and said, what's going on, and then you kind of like, this is happening,
this is real.
So, this wasn't a single day event like that, but it's going to be remembered like that, I guess I should say.
And that's cool that you bring up your kids too. I was flipping through, I forget what I was reading, but it was about crisis and character and all of that. And it's in times of crisis, you see character of a person, but also times of crisis build a character within a person. And so it will be one of those times where, especially hopefully young people are able to look back on it and really lean on this time as, I've made it through this, we responded in this way, this went well, we're going to make it through it. And that's one thing that I think we're trying to do as Catholic Nac as well, is just have a magnanimous response. Magnanimity is that big souledness, that desire to just, always overcome whatever challenges there may be. And I find it's easy with this whole situation to just kind of sit back and be like, whatever, everything's bad, we're not allowed to do anything, the world got canceled, let's just quit. And then, when it finally goes back, just say, thanks be to God, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. So let's just kind of continue right where we left off and just keep going. But, we need to have that magnanimous, kind of that American entrepreneurial spirit of, all right, this is the situation. It's not ideal, but we're going to make the best out of the situation. And in fact, we're going to profit even more from it.
I think that it's presented an opportunity, and everything can be either an opportunity or it's all opportunity, and depending on how you seize or don't seize that. One of the first videos, and I'm by no means a good video maker, but I put out is, you can take this, you can either do good with it or you can do bad with it, And so, a lot of different companies, you said the American entrepreneurial spirit have shifted their whole business model because of this, or shifted what products they even make, we talked about it in a joke, but Front Porch Distillery, just started, they make alcohol, so they just started making hand sanitizer to help people out. And so, that's what was needed, and
Yeah.
they said, "Hey, we're going to do that." And so, that kind of things, and here, while it's like, we normally have a lot of meetings and groups and large groups and small groups and community functions. We can't have any of that now. We can't even have mass for a while. But how can we do things? And so we kept asking that question, and we kept looking at it, and I think that's what hopefully will set us apart and put us in a better situation to serve people in the future. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so that's kind of where we're turning to now. We're right at this cusp of masses opening up. Governor Abbott has kind of laid out the plan to reopen Texas, and we looked at the situation. We just said, you know what, this is one of those moments where either a lot of people can fall away or a lot of people can get re-engaged. I think it's really important to recognize that the normal for everybody, so how everybody has been filling up their lives, just got completely destroyed. It's like we took a big bucket and we just dumped everything in the bucket of our lives out, right?
Yeah.
And we now get to rebuild how we want our life to be as it all kind of begins to restructure itself. And that presents a big opportunity for us. There are a lot of people that have had to look death in the face, that have had to look reality in the face, that have not been distracted by their work or even, by their kids' ballet and soccer and baseball and basketball and all these different things, that just fill up people's time. And so we have a real opportunity as Catholics and people who have faith and desire other people to be saved, to bring them to it. And so we kind of did an analysis of the different, I used the word demographics, but it didn't work out well. People thought I was talking about,
certain.
Exactly, yeah. White males between 50 and 60. But it was not demographics, but kind of groups of people or segments, perhaps, that you could say, that either were high risk because, that they could be falling away from the church throughout this whole experience, or were real opportunities that we could bring to the church. And then also just looking at the whole gamut of people who have been suffering and dealing with things throughout Corona apocalypse, as we call it. And yeah, let's try and remember the list here. This is a good exercise for
our brain. Yeah.
Our brain, yeah.
I know that we talked about those that were specifically alone because they were in a high risk category, but they typically lived alone anyway. And so now you're told you can't go out and do anything, and you're in a high risk, so your safety depends upon it. And so that was one of the segments that we wanted to make sure we continued to engage, begin to engage and continue to engage, I guess I should say. Do you want to kind of go through how we're engaging them now, or just go through the segments now?
What do you want to do? Yeah.
Okay. So, I think that broadcasting our Mass online was one of the biggest steps we did for that because
everybody became a shut-in for a while.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it didn't matter how old you were. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't really a demographic thing. Everybody was a shut-in. While, of course, we are not as technically savvy as Bishop Barron or some of the other ones that broadcast Mass, EWTN. There is
a pretty nice iPad.
There is some there's something about seeing the people on there. I mean, there's something about while Bishop Barron has a fantastic homily and great production quality and everything else, seeing Father Hector, seeing the deacons, even seeing some of the people that are ministering at Mass, it's just like, that's there, that's happening, that's my church, and I can see it, and I can still be a part of it online. And so I think that was one thing that we were able to turn around fairly quickly and do, and that was huge. The other thing was we have a team of volunteers that are calling anyone they can think of, anyone we have numbers for. The priests all made lots of phone calls. Mm-hmm. I know the deacons did. I know Deacon Darby did like twice his load because he did it so awesome the first time. We were like, here's another group. And then just checking on people. Who do we normally see on a day-to-day basis at church, bumping into them? Okay, I need to call them then because I can't go see them and I can't bump into them and things like that.
And that's something that we really hope to launch even more. So is really create a very organized team of volunteers that can make phone calls during this time coming up, because I think that contact is going to be important to make sure that we make it into the newly organized bucket of people's lives. And so for any leaders that are listening, we'll definitely be asking for volunteers to help make phone calls, because that is going to be an important part of what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, normal life in the church before this, there were people that would call and, I would just talk to them for a few minutes on the phone because it was obvious they just needed to talk on the phone for a little while. And it's part of my job and I love it. It's great, but I think it's even more important now.
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of our first segment we talked about. We talked about a segment of...
One other thing with the people who are alone in the Loving Hearts crew with Karen Davis has been doing an amazing job with this, of still making phone calls and checking in on people. But we talked about just having handwritten notes for them as well. A lot of those people who are in the highest risk demographics really, really appreciate handwritten letters. For me, a handwritten letter is like, could they not find it printer, or like what was wrong? It's too bad their internet wasn't working. But for people of that demographic, they kind of grew up with the whole pen pal idea and writing letters back and forth. Some of them even have memories of when their loved ones were at war. There were a whole series of wars that were going on at that time, and they did a lot of writing back and forth, and so they really feel very connected in that. And so that's one other thing we're going to be looking for volunteers for people, just to kind of set up that pen pal relationship with somebody who can't get out as much in the church, and hopefully that'll really make a long-term relationship. I'm not thinking that they're sending letters back and forth every single day, but long-term, making sure that they do know each other and that they're checking in on each other and able to share their faith in their life to that written form. But I was really excited about it. I forget who brought it up, but it was a great idea. I
think it was Cynthia. Yeah. But, I mean, it is a great idea. I'm not a writer by any means, but it is nice to get a handwritten note every now and then. My sister's the better of the two. I'll send a gift to her kid, and she'll send me a thank you note back. She'll send a gift to my kid. So
that was one thing my mother beat into me.
Yeah, so my mom did too. I just didn't. Yeah. I still don't do it. My mom's watching. She's gonna be like,
I hope you're not watching, Mom.
so I just don't do it. So I mean, I think it'd be a very nice touch. Just nice. Personal touch is important. So.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one thing. We'll be rolling out some small groups as well. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But the making sure that someone feels known, loved, and cared for is this really important human first step. It falls into the hospitality value that we really hold very highly here in Catholic Nac. Writing a personal letter is definitely a way to make sure that someone feels known, loved, and cared for. But then, that human knowing and loving can open up their mind to the reality of God's knowledge and love of them. That really moves someone to conversion. Can be a big step in growth in a person's spiritual life.
Yeah, I think of the Mother Teresa quotes and how you need to kind of lead with love, and a lot of times we walk right by or don't talk to somebody or don't take the time to phone call or write the thank you note that I don't do, and our excuse is always, we're too busy, I'm running around, I'm too busy, well, through whatever, everything that you were busy with basically is done,
Yeah, exactly.
So
it was all canceled.
You can't use that excuse. And so, I mean, personally, I've tried to reach out to more people on the phone over this time period. I still have 8 kids at home, so I have a busy house.
Exactly.
It's definitely quieter at the office than it is at my house. But through the few little times I have, I'm like, I can pick up a phone and call somebody and check on them. So it's been important. So to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So next kind of demographic or segment or group of people that we talked about was we talked about people who were the only Catholic in their household. Or the only Catholic that they're regularly in touch with. And I thought that was really, really helpful thing to think about. That also, most of these weren't my ideas, which is what I know when we're giant, great ideas. Yeah, that's when they're not mine. But to really engage those people, because normally when they come out to the church, that's their chance to re-engage with their faith, to be reinforced, and just to see other human beings that agree with them about the fundamental worldview. And if they've been locked in a house with a bunch of people who don't share that fundamental worldview, it's really, really hard for them to stay firm. And then also there's just kind of a frustration that happens. It's like putting a sane person in a insane asylum. Yeah. Eventually the same person goes crazy because they're the only ones that think that they're not Napoleon, and it's like, wait, you can't all be Napoleon. I'm not Napoleon either. It's not a comment on people who aren't Catholic, but that idea that when you're the only person that has a worldview, it's very difficult.
Basically, everybody's not Catholic is insane.
That's not what that's what was implied. I didn't say that.
But I can cut it later either way.
I'm sorry.
I guess I could see their point of, we want to discuss these things. We want to have, discussions from the standpoint of you're looking at a deadly virus, in the face, and it's going to change the world. It has changed the world, I guess I should say. And for those people of faith, specifically the Catholic faith, there's a response to that, and there's a kind of an understanding of, yes, we need to be safe. Yes, we need to take precautions, so on and so forth. But ultimately, God's in control, and God will take care of it. And if God forbid one of us gets it, and God forbid one of us die too, that there's a response to that too. If we've gone through the proper steps and made a confession and so on and so forth, that we have the hope of heaven. And if you're living with people that don't follow that kind of logic and those kind of faith structures and kind of pillars of the Catholic faith, then that could be very frustrating because their fear could take over and other things could take over.
Yeah.
I don't know. You probably have a lot more theologically smart things to say on that kind of topic. But
no, I completely agree. I think that's exactly it. Is that right now everybody's forced to make or to think about the profound things, and what's if you keep thinking, eventually you get to having to deal with God.
Yeah.
And then, especially right now with things opening back up, people are making decisions on is the value of what I am going to do worth the risk that I am going to take by going to do that thing. And so, especially with a lot of Catholics, the idea of going to Mass.
Yeah.
For a Catholic, we consider being present at the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass and being able to receive Jesus Christ in the Eucharist as this very high
paramount.
The source and summit of our life. And if you're living with all Protestants or with non-Catholics, then for them, they understand the value of worship, but whether you're worshiping with your family at home or with your, as they talk about it, your church family in the worship hall, it's not that big of a difference. You can still hear the sermon, you can still read the scriptures, you can still sing and pray the songs that they're playing. But for us, that's not the case. And so a lot of people are struggling with that reality that, well, I think it's worth it for me to take the risk to go to church, but none of my non-Catholic family members or people in my household agree. And if I choose to go to church, there is a risk that I'll contract coronavirus. Anytime you walk out of the house, there's a risk, right?
And then bring it home to your family members.
Yeah, I agree with them at risk, and they don't agree. And so now there's this big conflict that just brings up all of the differences in our fundamental worldviews one more time. And so, they're definitely struggling. And so some of the things that we're trying to do with them that we talked about were, first off, making sure that we're really sanitizing extremely well and that we're communicating our sanitization procedures, because those risks need to be mitigated as much as possible so that the conflicts within the household are mitigated. But then also creating opportunities for these people to engage and to just be around or be in communication with their fellow Catholics is something that we're really working on. And obviously the phone calls will be part of that, just making sure that somebody's calling and talking and checking in on them on their faith, on how they're doing on a very practical level. But then also we're going to be really pushing small groups, which we have been doing some small groups over Zoom, and that's actually worked really, really well. So even people who don't want to go out of their house, they can still get connected with a small group of people, have a conversation about their faith, develop relationships, healthy relationships centered on Christ with other Catholics or even Christians who are just kind of open to Catholicism, and be reinforced in that way. And so I'm really excited about that, and we'll have a small group leader kind of formation training rolling out fairly soon, so that if anybody wants to get involved in that, they can do that. So I'm really excited about that. And then also, as we're able to have smaller groups at the church, since the small groups are significantly lower risk than like a 50-person class or something of the sort, we're going to be running a lot of those and really trying to push and move in that direction for the next at least 6 months or so until things open back up completely.
I mean, small groups are huge to me. Having worked in youth ministry for lots of years, that was really where you could take a student, a teen, and get them, from wherever they were in their faith to whatever the next level is they need to be, And you did that through relationships. But, if you're standing in front of a room with 250 middle schoolers and, teaching a lesson on angels, which I've done before, I could be very entertaining, but, have PowerPoints and music and everything else, but it was in the small group where there's only 10 of them with the same leader typically week in and week out that really, that was where it happened. That was where they took what I said and applied it to their own lives, And so I know that Neil's been, you probably talked about it with him, but he's been doing Man Club by Zoom, and it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, just for my own personal thing to be able to connect with those guys, and unfortunately not everyone's been able to make it, but then there's some people that have been able to make it that hadn't been before. And
right.
So, I know for Greg Dinan specifically, it was huge for him. I mean, he was like, whenever you guys start meeting in person, take a laptop and put me back on there because I don't want to stop.
I love that.
Don't kick me out again. So not kick him out, but that's what he said jokingly. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that more of those is better. I notice when I sleep in and miss Man Club, like I notice in my own personal life, and so and I'm literally at the church all day long, and so. I think that it's huge, and if people aren't in one, I think they should really, really consider one, and look at what type of small group they want. And if it's not something we're offering, let us know so we can, work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I need one for. I'm a brand new Catholic. Okay, great. We do need a group for that. I need one for, all the different. That's the beauty of small groups is they can be very segmented.
Yeah.
We can have one for. I'm shut in, but I need someone to help me figure out Zoom, and then I want to do this. Okay, great. You got your iPad. We'll just click this button and do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
I think it's really telling, from the kind of pastor point of view. One of the really telling things is that at St. Mary's we have 21 small groups. That's what we ended with this year. I guess we haven't ended yet, but we've got 21 running, and about 120 people that are regularly in those small groups every single week. I think they've got a reach of about 180 people have showed up at least one time.
Out of the 260, 70 that attend Mass on a regular basis?
Yeah, exactly. And about 60 of those are not students that attend Mass. So yeah, it's a really big penetration. It's a major part of the community there to be involved in a small group. And across Catholic Nacogdoches, as far as adults entering the Catholic Church goes, it's, depending on what point you're looking at, it's 75 to 90% of the people that are entering the church in Nacogdoches are college students. And a huge portion of them are involved in one of those small groups. That somebody has a friend who is maybe going through something or is maybe involved in their church, but just, isn't super plugged in and isn't loving it. And so they say, hey, you know what? I lead a Bible study, or I'm in a Bible study. Do you want to come? And they say, yeah, sure. And they come once and they have a decent experience. They come again, they have a good experience, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And then after they're in that Bible study for a year or so, they think, I'm actually really convinced of this. And they enter and they become Catholic, and then they become some of the really strong well-formed Catholics in the community. It's a really cool thing to see, and I think it's a real testament to the effectiveness of small groups. So I'm really excited that we'll be able to kind of use this time to launch and make that happen here.
Yeah, I was thinking another time personally that small groups was I guess pivotal in my own life was it's kind of part of the church process, and so I mean at the time my wife was joining the church, I also went through church, and I mean the gentleman that I did that process with, it's about 6 months worth of weekly meetings that were anywhere from an hour to 3, depending on which week it was. But I mean, at the end of that time, I knew none of these guys going into it.
Mm-hmm.
I seriously didn't know a single guy in the room. And then at the end, I mean, they're like brothers, I mean, you knew so much personal parts. You had worked through so many things together, and you also had this goal, which I think is an interesting element of church. Is that like you're not only meeting just to meet, you're meeting because you have this goal to go achieve.
Yeah,
and that creates a whole different dynamic that not every small group needs. But it, by having a task or a goal, it kind of unifies people. Like, this is what we're doing. We're going to go do this.
Yeah. I find that's particularly the case with guys. Guys aren't good at just sitting around and talking. They need to be playing golf or smoking a cigar or drinking coffee or whatever. Because when we have something that we're doing, when we have for church, it's that, okay, we need to prepare the next retreat. We're able to actually carry on the conversation.
Or finish the next book, like Man Club.
Yeah, exactly.
Half time we're not even on topic of the book, but we have good conversations.
They're good conversations, though. Hey, it's helping people grow in their faith. So it's good. Yeah, excellent. So, what group was that? We were
on people who are Catholic in their only Catholics in their homes.
Yeah, that's right. So, what was another kind of group of people that we were on?
I guess we talked about the people that were essential and kind of the health workers.
Yeah,
the people that to me they're out there doing immense work, literally putting their lives at risk every day to help cure people. All the different things that health workers do, not health work, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we've got, a lot of media going around sharing a lot of different opinions, and some of them aren't always positive, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And so, and we have a lot of health workers in some form or fashion as part of our parish. And so just, knowing that we're supporting them and that we're also trying to follow the guidelines, listening to their expert advice, because they know what they're doing, and we don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
we do faith.
Yeah.
I
do bookkeeping.
Viral control.
Yeah. So listening to them and following their guidelines. And just letting them know we're supporting it. Even people in the my dad works for the city of Plano, and he's got to be there. He kind of has a job that's way in the background of the city of Plano, but the city still has to run. The county still has to run. All these different things. They have to go because we need them for part of our society. And so, saying thank you to all of them and appreciating them and letting them know they're appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody who is an essential worker who's listening right now, watching, thank you very much for everything that you've done to serve others and to kind of sacrifice in that way. It's very much a Christ-like sacrifice that you've been making. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
I guess the idea that the church is essential also was first couple of days when they were shutting things down and you and I were talking and I felt like we were both kind of like, okay, well, does this mean we shut down? Does it not shut down? How much do we shut down? Does the operations of the church still need to happen? Do they not? And most of my brain said the church is essential whether it's on the list or not. But I'm listening, and it was, so that's good. And also that we want to keep the employees and everyone as safe as possible, but a couple of us need to be on the ground making sure it happens.
Yeah.
And so the priests have been here the whole time, of course, doing the things.
Here. We
can't go anywhere anyway. Yeah.
Exactly.
So but I mean, Rick has been amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of our staff has worked from home remotely, which has been amazing.
Yeah.
And able to adapt to the changes that have literally come daily.
Yeah.
Oh, now today we're going to do this, and now today we're going to change that. Because it's just that's the environment we were in, and done that very well. So I'm very, very proud of them and thankful for them and all they did too.
We really do have a rock star staff.
So we zoomed into meetings so that we could talk about plans and talk about changes and stayed 6 feet apart when we were in the same room.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's something that once again we'll look back on and we'll say, as an organization, we did that, and we were able to profit from it, not money wise, profit from it, but, opportunity wise, I mean, grow as an organization and be better on the backside, and so, and it's because of the people we had working and how they were all on the same mission of, this is about souls. It's not about our job, even, I mean, at one point I had a conversation. It's like, well, if it gets really bad, cut me, but I'll do what I can from the backside, and I'll live on my stimulus for a little while because I have a bunch of kids, so it's good stimulus. I mean, but everybody was that dedicated. Everybody was willing to. What do we need to do? Does it mean I need to work from home, take half pay, whatever? I mean, and luckily we were able to keep everybody and pay them full and everything else, thanks to the stimulus and other things that we jumped on. But it was, I think, all a testament to their dedication, I guess, is what it is. So
absolutely. So some other segments that we talked about is making sure to engage with either people who are fallen away Catholics or who had perhaps kind of shown that they were interested, at least in some way, in the Catholic faith by engaging with our social media. A lot of those people are real opportunities right now. A lot of people, I find, when they're falling away from the church, they had either one bad experience or perhaps sometimes even a few bad experiences, and that's why they're not Catholic anymore, or they just allowed life to make itself too busy. They filled up the bucket with everything else, and now they just don't prioritize faith. But like we said, the life bucket has been emptied, and so this is a chance for us to put everything back in. But then also, this time of the coronavirus has helped people to kind of step back and reprocess a lot of things in their lives, and I think we have a real opportunity to go and engage with those people who perhaps had a bad experience and ask them to give the Catholic Church another chance and have a good experience. I think we've responded well as the church in this time. We've helped out a lot of people on a very natural level. The food pantry is running twice as much as it has been, if not more. We're helping people financially whenever they ask for it, and we're really just supporting people as much as we reasonably can as Catholics. And so I think this is a good time for us to just start to engage those people and say, hey, you know what, we're still here for you, we still love you, we still want you to be involved, and here are great ways that you can get involved. And so the small groups will be a part of that, and then also just our social media being really a lot more present on social media. One of the early things, part of cranking out the Sunday masses, or the daily masses and Sunday masses on Facebook Live, was to start producing videos every single day from somebody in Catholic Nac coaches, and just be posting a lot more.
It was a tall order, and one of the earliest big changes we did. But all of a sudden, people that have never really recorded videos before are now recording them. I'm editing them all the time.
That's right. Yeah, you did a great job. That all just got thrown onto your lap. You're like, all right, Sky, there aren't any more events for you to prep for. So here, take everything.
But I'm really impressed with Mrs. Higgins and Philip, and the different people that. It's not necessary. They weren't trained for this, other than whatever they consumed on their own time, and now it's like, oh, by the way, you're producing a video. I got to have one every Wednesday, and it's got to be between 3 and 15 minutes long, and try to record it correctly and hide sideways. And I can do editing, but I can't do like 4 hours of editing on it. So try to get it pretty decent on the first take. And so, but I think it was huge just from the standpoint of we watched the metrics. Anything that's got anybody locally in it is just significantly more engaging to those to those in our community. I mean from the standpoint, they're just, if you're stuck at home and you're like, oh, there's the guy from church, even if maybe you didn't know my name, you're like, I know him. He's got a whole bunch of kids, takes the whole pew. And then they could then they watch my video and decide I didn't have anything important to say, and so they keep flipping. But
They watch a video, right?
but for Philip, they watch the whole
their
thing.
Yeah.
And for Mrs. Higgins, they watch the whole thing. So those kind of things. But I mean, having media ramp up quickly and effectively was kind of something I think we did well at the beginning, and we're continuing to do well and continuing to look at. I mean, and part of the new normal will be Catholic Nacogdoches will have a very robust media that will continue. It may not be quite to the level we're doing right now, because as events open back up, we'll have to shift back to the focus a little bit, but we will still definitely have, hopefully, improving quality, continue to improve our quality and engaging more and more on social media. So
just a good presence. So that was a big win throughout all of this. And then one of the other big segments that we talked about was those who were financially struggling throughout all of this. We feel very blessed that we were able to keep all of our employees, like you said, on full time. However, a lot of companies haven't been able to do that, and a lot of people are financially struggling because of that. And so,
furloughed or however. I mean, it's a shame, and every company has to make the decision they have to make.
Exactly.
I mean, if they're not allowed to even do business, what are you going to do?
Right.
It's difficult. We have been extremely blessed by a ton of donors, both food pantry and just use this for whatever kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And hey, help keep the church going. All of it. It's been overwhelming. I don't normally, in I guess the old normal. I don't necessarily collect the mail every day and open all the checks every day. Griselda does that, and then she puts them in a safe, and then somebody else gets them out of a safe, and then they count them. Now I'm doing a lot of those things myself, and with other people watching and everything else. But I've got to see a lot more of it and track where it is, and it's been amazing how generous people have been, I guess I should say. And so, I mean, if there are people out there watching this, I hope we've communicated it well, that need any type of financial assistance. Please contact Father George or myself, because we can help some. We don't have a ton, but we can help some. And there's a ton of other resources that the food pantry has put together, and there's lots of help around the county, I guess I should say. So if we can't help, we'll try to get you somewhere that can. So absolutely.
Yeah. So just really communicating that to everybody. I think a lot of people who already needed financial help, they know where to go. But the people who were making it paycheck to paycheck, they don't know where to go because they never had to ask these questions before. And so just really ramping up our communications as well, and making sure that people are aware of Love Inc. A lot of people have heard of it, but don't know the whole history. It was actually founded by a Catholic. It was founded by Kathleen Bellinger. And the idea was that it would help to coordinate and connect. That's why Love Inc. is love in the name of Christ, but also if you just call it link, the idea was to link all of the different people of goodwill in Nacogdoches together to be able to really serve in the name of Christ, and to serve as well as we can, so that we aren't kind of overfilling certain parts of the needs and underfilling other ones. But working with Love in the Name of Christ, and then also all of the different groups that do serve in Nacogdoches, we're able to really very heavily support in Nacogdoches anybody who is in need, which is a really beautiful and cool thing. It's a big testament to the Christians in Nacogdoches.
Yeah, just in the 2 years I've been here, we've had a lot more conversations with Love Inc. and Salvation Army and Hope, and a lot of the different ones that are on that resource list that we're happy to share and give you information on. And I feel like they're working together a lot more than they were when I got here. Mm-hmm. Not that they necessarily were trying not to work together. They just, they're just tunnel vision. You know what I mean? And now it's like, okay, hey, we do this over here. You also do the same thing, but on a different day. So we'll send them to you if they need it on that day, and you send them to us if they need it on our day, exactly, or whatever. Yeah. Or I do this different thing, and it helps people in a different way. And so, because, any hardship, poverty, something like that, the goal being to help as much as possible, and then help them get out of it also, and so that's it's a multiple phase kind of thing, and I think those discussions are being had. I'm not necessarily at those tables all the time, which is not my job, so that's okay. But, right, but I think that those discussions are being had, which makes me excited for the fact that there's a larger community really involved in trying to completely get rid of poverty in Nacogdoches County, as much as possible, homelessness and poverty and things like that, and so, and that's job training, and that's food banks, and that's, a lot of different things, transitional housing, and it's all these different elements of it, and so, but our food pantry is at the table of those discussions, I guess, and that's I think huge from the standpoint of that we're a Catholic Church, and charity is one of the things we're supposed to be doing.
That's right,
all the time.
Charity is part of our mission.
So yeah, I think that's I think it's huge to just recognize the different financial struggles. It's hard. So if you need help, let us know. Right?
Yeah. So absolutely. So, good. And we talked about young people in general, especially ones that are kind of disconnected from their family, that aren't in a family setting, obviously. So high schoolers, middle schoolers, things of that sort. Those people. Rebecca has been doing an amazing job engaging with them. They all live on social media, and so she just went to where they live anyways, the digital space, and has been having Zoom meetings, and
my kids are on them. They look forward to it.
Exactly, yeah. And so she's doing a great job, really engaging them. But then also, for a lot of people, a lot of young people, they're struggling with all sorts of different things, and so the presence of the sacraments is really important for them, and so that's why we've been pushing very hard, and we'll continue to make the sacraments as available as possible while still keeping them safe.
Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
Was there another demographic?
I don't know if this is, I guess, people that were kind of on the fence.
That's right.
Yeah. So I don't know if that falls into the
kind of
falling away.
Yeah, but perhaps not quite engaged either.
This is something we had discussions with before this too. There
How
are
you engage them.
a significant number of people that may be attending Mass once or twice a month, not really engaged in the parish on an active standpoint. And percentage-wise, it's actually quite a large number, and it's I guess it was a problem before, and now through this, do they say, oh, well, I only went once or twice a month, so when filling their bucket back up, they're like, oh, that's something that obviously wasn't that important to me before, so maybe it's not now.
Right.
Or, maybe because they looked at, death in the face or, things like that, they're like, oh, it is important now, I'm going to go more. Or maybe they, prayed to not lose their job and they didn't lose their job. And they promised God, I'll go to Mass every week now. so, all these different type things, but, and I believe you mentioned it on one of your other videos, to be a Catholic that just goes to Mass on Sunday is not really being a full Catholic and leading the full Catholic life. And that's something that, as a person who's not a priest, I guess, it makes a huge difference to be involved in different aspects of the faith beyond just going to Mass. Mass is the source and the summit. That's the most important, but interacting in a small group, or working with shock, or teaching catechism, or working a food pantry, or the guys that come up and fix the plumbing anytime I need to sprinkle. Those guys are amazing. I just call them and they come up and they fix it and they just give me a bill for the parts and that's it. And it's awesome, and they're helping out their church. And, I know they also receive something from that. They also receive, hey, I got up and I helped the church today. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or I got up and I had a conversation with a guy about this or that, or, made a phone call. And so it's a completely different level of faith when, you're the receiver, or as in the book Rebuilt calls, a consumer Catholic. Yeah. As opposed to someone who is helping produce, if you think of like the agrarian type thing,
right.
I'm just going to go and I'm going to, be entertained or receive Mass, as opposed to, now I'm going to help bring others into the faith,
right.
In some form, whatever that, whatever your gift is, if your gift is working on cars, all right, let's have a mechanics small group. Right. We're going to pray and work on this car together. Absolutely. I know Charlie and some of the guys have the chop shop thing that they do, and they talk about faith while they're working on cars, and and so it happens everywhere. And whether or not it even has to be organized, it doesn't matter. But if you're a person that's not, you're in that consumer kind of bucket, or I just attend Mass,
mm-hmm.
I really strongly encourage you to look into something. And if we don't have something, let us know, because we'll try to find something. We want people to be more engaged. And then when they're there, then help more people. Teach. attend one for a while, then go lead one.
Right.
There's always kind of a next step to get, the path of the spiritual life, I guess, or the way, if you will. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of running out of time. We've been going for a while. This happens whenever we start sitting and talking about things with the church. It's so much fun talking to you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Usually
Sell
we
us
talk about
and
numbers,
ideas,
so.
and we're always talking about exactly. Normally we're talking about
Yeah.
money and facilities,
which are important, but not as exciting to talk about. So
absolutely, yeah. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So I feel honored to be called interesting. So. So I guess I hope I'm interesting to other people too. So maybe not. They're like, "Hey, click, that was tough."
We'll see on the stats. After
Exactly. Scott's video bombed. Yeah,
good stuff. All right,
but I appreciate it, Father. Thank you very much.
Thank you.